Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, November 7, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also, feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at what the US National Hurricane Center is showing on their 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook as of this evening, 7 p.m. We can see that there's nothing right here across the Atlantic that's expected during the next 7 days. However, that could possibly change. Let us take a look at the two main global models that we use for forecasting, the ECMWF model and the GFS model. And we're going to be looking at the next 7 days across the Western Atlantic, including the Caribbean, just like what the Hurricane Center would do the next 7 days. So we're looking at right here at the top that says 168 hours. That's about 7 days. And if we take a look at the Euro model, we're starting to see the greens that represent all of the trophy activity that we're already starting to see across the eastern and east central Caribbean. All of these clouds on the rainbow satellite images, definitely a lot of troughing taking place. Lots of cloud showers and thunderstorms affecting portions of the Windward Islands as well as sections of the central Caribbean, including the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. And the model is showing that as we head into the weekend, it should intensify. Look, we even see some darker shades of green that represent a lot of moisture. And as we head out to about 168 hours, we see that all of this starts to pile up into sections of the south and the western Caribbean. Lots of greens that represent rainfall stretching all the way from the western Caribbean to the southern and central Caribbean, even portions of Jamaica. That's just the Euro model though, and we even see an L way down there in the far southern Caribbean that indicates a possible area of low pressure trying to form. What does the GFS model show for the same time period? We see the greens across the eastern Caribbean starting to migrate to the central Caribbean as time goes on. Then the western Caribbean, the greens are starting to even intensify, starting to see some yellows and oranges in there, even an L that represents an area of low pressure already. That we're starting to see a broad area spin as indicated by the contour lines right there, and we're finally at 168 hours, and we see the contrast, we see the differences in what the Euro model and the GFS models are showing. And the thing is, when it comes to these models, we have to look for consensus. We have to look at what both of them are showing, and we don't see something similar in terms of a huge broad area of low pressure on the Euro like what we see on the GFS. But what we do see is the abundance of moisture, a lot of greens that represent even close to at least 5 inches of rainfall. GFS, as usual, is going crazy with the predictions, showing an area of low pressure, a possible tropical depression or tropical storm, even seeing some yellows and reds in there that indicate some heavy rainfall, heavy weather, flood triggering rainfall, especially across the Jamaica area. But will that actually verify? Which is why we need to stay close and pay close attention to what the US National Hurricane Center is showing. Nothing right now, but that could change as the week progresses, maybe into the weekend or even next week. We need to pay close attention to what's going to happen. We're still in hurricane season. It goes all the way up until the end of November, and with the very warm sea surface temperatures across the Caribbean and no serious storm to use up all of that warm water yet, we need to pay close attention to what happens. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can still see that we have that area of high pressure across the northeastern sections of the North Atlantic, sending all of those easterly trade winds across the main development region. We can also see a cold front that stretches all the way from the northern section of the North Atlantic all the way down into portions of the northeastern Caribbean. And we can also see those broken lines right there that represent a trough across the east central Caribbean, maybe affecting the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. and we can see it all even better on the visible satellite images. Here are the clouds that represent that cold front that stretches all the way down into portions of the northeastern Caribbean, not to mention the clouds associated with that trough that the cold front has induced, affecting portions of the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico with some amount of overcast skies, showers and thunderstorms, as well as portions of the Windward Islands getting in on that heavy weather as well. Alright, so we'll be talking more about the Caribbean weather later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that northern and eastern Jamaica would have received some morning rainfall on Tuesday, and there was a slight chance of this rainfall starting from as early as Monday night, and that's exactly what took place. And we even had some of this rainfall spilling into sections of some southern parishes during the afternoon on Tuesday. We know northern parishes, we're talking about those parishes like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. On the south coast, we're talking about St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. And as you know, when we're talking about eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex. And western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. And what ended up happening? As early as 9:20 p.m. last night, a post was made on our Twitter page at Weather Jamaica. Keep in mind that if you don't follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or our TikTok page. We make mini posts on those platforms as opposed to these long videos that we post on our YouTube page. And we can see the post highlighting the Cuban Doppler radar images, showing some greens and some slight yellows that represent moderate to some heavy rainfall across sections of some northern parishes last night. So definitely sections of Hanover, St. James, Trelawney got in on some amount of rainfall, and that even progressed to the northeast as the night progressed. Then during the afternoon, we saw that the visible satellite image was posted highlighting clouds bringing some amount of isolated showers to sections of Portland, northeastern St. Andrew, sections of western St. Catherine, Clarendon for sure, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. And we even have confirmation of this rainfall from last night. Crazy Unique, we stating Mobe, nice, good piece of night shower outside. And Garth Vader stating rain just start. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see that the flow was more coming in from the northeast, and then we had that air piling up across sections of Portland, northeastern St. Andrew, definitely sections of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon. But we didn't have that deep convection taking place today like what we had yesterday at all. We don't see those high cold cloud tops. We just see some light patches of grays. So we didn't have any form of thunderstorm activity, but we indeed have that rainfall. And we can still see some rainfall taking place across sections of some southern parishes as we speak, as indicated by the greens and yellows. Definite sections of southern Clarendon, southern Manchester, sections of northern Manchester, and section of St. Elizabeth still getting in on some amount of rainfall as we speak. Alright, so let us take a look at what the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology is showing for the rainfall that we've been experiencing for the past 24 hours. So definitely sections of some northern parishes in Jamaica, especially last night into this morning, and then during the afternoon across sections of some southern parishes. So this did indeed paint a picture of what took place across the island for today, just like what we saw on the satellite images and Doppler radar images. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that we have 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by 3 a.m. on Wednesday, the temperature should dip down to about 25 degrees Celsius. As it relates to the temperature forecast for Wednesday, we can see that 18D, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, has Jamaica embedded in some yellows and some slight orange colors that represent 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures. And we know the normal temperatures for the month of November are around 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the same as 30 degrees Celsius. So it should be receiving anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at most for Wednesday. Taking a look at the dry air map, we're starting to see some amount of dry air starting to invade the Jamaica area. You know, the dry air is represented by the key at the bottom, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and whites within those reds. And we do see all of that, especially across the Gulf of Mexico, off the east coast of the United States, off the northwestern coast of Africa, the northern main development region. And we do see some of that across sections of Jamaica, some yellows that indicate some lighter shade or the low end scale of dry air. But what about the Saharan dust? 2 p.m. on Wednesday shows that majority of the Saharan dust should be across Africa and portions of the main development region, nothing across Jamaica at all. As it relates to the wave forecast, we do see that the north coast is where the highest waves will be, averaging 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. Coming in on the south coast, we have up to 0.5 for meter wave heights, as indicated by those lighter shades of blues. And we know the key represented best on the bottom right. Lighter shades of blues anywhere from 0 to 0.5 for meter wave heights, while the darker blues represent 1 to 1.5 meter wave heights. And that's due to the fact that we're still going to be getting winds coming in from the northeast for tomorrow, especially on the north coast. Is going to be windy there, averaging 10 to at least 20 knots. The south coast, not so much. We see some darker shades of blues that indicate the lightest winds, and that's usually where all the air piles up, especially during the afternoon, just like what we saw today, to bring some amount of isolated showers. But we can't rule out some more rainfall, just like what we had yesterday across northern Jamaica during the night time, then into the early morning hours. So there could be a repeat of what we have happening. So sections of some northern parishes could receive some Tuesday night rainfall into early morning rainfall. So Wednesday morning, some more rainfall is definitely in store for sections of Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, and that's from tonight into tomorrow. Then during the afternoon, we can't rule out that afternoon isolated shower across sections of some southern parishes again. So sections of especially Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland. And with the upper level winds coming in from the west or the west northwest, that's definitely going to be favoring more of that afternoon rainfall across sections of some southern parishes as well. Alright, so let us take a look at the forecast by the 1 hour total maps. We can see the Euro starting to show lots of blues that represent rainfall across the northern and eastern portion of the island, and this is valid for 2 a.m. Jamaica time, and we see much of the same on the GFS models. So sections of Portland, section of St. Mary, St. Thomas might get in on some amount of rainfall. We know we're looking for consensus, so whatever both maps are showing from the Euro and the GFS increases the odds of that happening. Skipping ahead to about 9 a.m. Jamaica time, we still see much of the same. Blues across northeastern parishes, so sections of maybe St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas, and we see that on the GFS model as well. More of this rainfall out to sea than what we see on the Euro model. Either way, definitely going to be having some of that rainfall lingering and making it into the northeastern parishes. Skipping ahead to about 1 p.m. Jamaica time, we're starting to see some of that rainfall starting to spill into sections of some central and western parishes, especially some southern parishes during the afternoon. Look at that. Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, section of St. Catherine, maybe a section of St. Andrew as well. And we can also see that by 4 p.m. still have that rainfall on the GFS across the north, then across sections of some central and western parishes or some southern parishes as well. Either way, we have some rainfall in the forecast, or especially in northern Jamaica in the morning, then sections of some southern parishes in Jamaica during the afternoon, just as predicted. And if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast by both the Euro and the GFS models, keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. And we're not saying that it's going to be raining all the way until then. We're just saying that this is the total amount of rainfall expected during that next 24-hour time period. We do see that the GFS is a bit more robust than the Euro model, showing some reds in there on the GFS. Euro model only showing some yellows in there, going all the way up to 0.37 of an inch across sections of the northeast and maybe St. Mary, Portland. GFS showing up to 0.48 of an inch of rainfall across the very same spot. And we're indeed grateful that we're going to be getting in on some amount of rainfall. We're in the final month of our rainy season, November. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we head into the drier months, the dry period from December to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can still see that we have a lot of clouds across the intertropical convergence zone, right there across the southern main development region. And we know that's where the air from the southern hemisphere meets the air from the northern hemisphere. And then we have convergence. We have that air piling up, bring about clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. You can also see that we still have some leftover clouds from those troughs of low pressure across sections of Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize. Still getting in on some heavy clouds, showers, and thunderstorm activity. Not to mention the usual across Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, sections of the Eastern Caribbean as well, getting in on some heavy weather. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean right now, we do see where we still have some amount of rainfall, maybe even bringing some flash flooding to sections of the British and US Virgin Islands, sections of eastern Puerto Rico getting in on some amount of rainfall, maybe some hit or miss showers across sections of St. Martin, St. Kitts, but not so much across Antigua and Barbuda at this time, not to mention Guadeloupe or Dominica. But if we look below there, to the south of there, that's where we see the heaviest weather. So definitely sections of Martinique, especially western Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, sections of Trinidad and Tobago, still getting in on some heavy weather, and we can't rule out an isolated shower or two across sections of Barbados, even although for the most part they're in the clear right now. Maybe some eastern and northern portions getting in on some isolated spot as we speak. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we're seeing that rainfall that we mentioned across sections of Guyana, sections of Honduras, Belize, and if we take a look at the temperature forecast for 18th on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, we do see that majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on some above normal temperatures, getting even up to at least 3 degrees Celsius above normal from the eastern to the western Caribbean. As it relates to the Saharan dust forecast for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, we don't see that much happening across the Caribbean, just some light brown colors that indicate the lighter scale of the Saharan dust plume. It's not that robust. If you want to see robust Saharan dust, you have to see the dark shades of browns that indicate some very heavy, hazy skies, putting away the blues in the skies, triggering asthma, sinusitis, allergies, whatever the case may be. And we don't see much of that happening for 2 p.m. on a Wednesday at all. As relates to the wave forecast, majority of the Caribbean seems to be experiencing for Wednesday anywhere from 0.5 to up to 1.5 meter wave heights, and that's due to the fact that the winds are not going to be that strong, averaging anywhere from 10 to 20 knots at most, coming in from the east across majority of the central and eastern Caribbean, and from the northeast across the central and western Caribbean right there. We see that on both the Euro and the GFS malls, and we know that when we see consensus like this, the chance of it actually happening are much higher. Taking a look at the rainfall forecast now, we still don't see much in the way of rainfall for sections of the Yucatan Peninsula, central and western Cuba, Florida, the Bahamas, but we start to see some greens coming into play, some isolated showers to sections of eastern Cuba, maybe the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, sections of Jamaica. Not so much rainfall for the Cayman Islands, but definitely some rainfall for sections of maybe Haiti, definitely the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, as indicated by that trough. The US and British Virgin Islands should still be getting in on some more rainfall. Maybe not as much for the northeastern Caribbean, so anywhere to the north of Guadeloupe, not so much rainfall. But to the south of Guadeloupe, definitely Barbados, Martinique, sections of St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, sections of Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. Even if we take a look at the southern portion of the basin, we still see some rainfall in store. Maybe some more in the way of isolated rainfall across French Guiana, Suriname, sections of Guyana to be getting in on some rainfall. Venezuela, Colombia as usual, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize still to be getting in on some more rainfall. And we can't rule out some isolated flash flooding taking place, especially when we see those purples right there across sections of Honduras. And we know that when we see both maps showing the same thing like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.